So he said, it's Jerry. Okay. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. I think it's close enough to 4. And thank you all for coming today. I just want to take I just want to take a few moments to go over the protocol for the meetings. When the committee reports are given, we really try to make an effort to stay on topic with those. Any questions can be brought up after the entire report is given. And of course, you can also talk to the chairman personally, afterwards or, at another time if you'd like. If you do have a new idea, we'd like to save all those for the new business section of the meeting, okay? So that the committee reports are really dealing with what is currently going on. Pardon me? Oh, it is? Oh, I didn't have that. Okay, so as far as my report, I hope you all had a very successful holiday season. Those of you with businesses especially. I have to tell you, the town looked very festive with our lights contest, and I was so pleased to see so many businesses participating in that. And there just seemed to be a lot of enthusiasm about being part of that. And I've been down here for 10 years, and I honestly believe the town looked better than ever this year. So I'd also like to thank Rosanna for that, because she had a hand in decorating some of the spots in town as well. Our holiday events were successful, starting with the holiday parade, the carriage rides. I don't see Angelo here, but he deserves a big thank you for hosting carriage rides and always having hot chocolate and cookies, and he decorated his entire deck and showed old-fashioned Christmas movies. It was very well received. The gingerbread event at Stengel, same thing. I had so many families coming up to me asking me, what's next? What's the next event? I really feel like we're becoming known as a family-friendly town with lots of things happening. Now, speaking of what's next for the budget, as you all know, the budget got a solid no vote from council. But I have to tell you, I want to tell you this, that there were so many positive comments from the audience that evening, and you should all be very proud of the work that you have done, and it's being noticed in the community. There were developers, property owners, business owners, residents, and the room was full, and every single comment was pro-bid. And I just want you to know that. And, as far as going forward, council is more comfortable waiting until after the restructuring to finalize our budget. So, we're obviously going to go along with their recommendations. I did meet with the 2 consultants this week, and, they have a lot of experience. They are great listeners. I think they're really going to help us improve the communication disconnect that we seem to have at times. I see that it's going to cause a lot of improvements to happen, and I'm all about moving the town forward, and we need to do this together as partners. So we hope to all work together to accomplish their tasks. It's, like I said, 2 consultants. There's a man by the name of Stuart Copperweiss and a lady by the name of Beth Littman. And like I said, very easy to work with. They want to get this done quickly. They don't see huge insurmountable problems. And when I left that meeting, I felt good. I really did. I felt this is something we can do. They want to get the budget passed within 60 days, which would be fabulous, so we don't have to use up all of our capital investment funds for operating expenses. They're going to help with the new bylaws, and part of that includes our board restructure. So I'm on board with it, and I hope everyone else here is, because this is what we're doing. And if you have questions, you can call either Brian or myself, and we'd be happy to explain it in more detail. We have received from Roger Brooks a preliminary action plan. It's 7 pages, and it has quite a bit in it. And this is what we're going to be following moving forward. Since we don't have our full amount of money, we're going to just focus strictly on the branding and do what we can with the money that we have to go forward with that. Because we feel, we don't want to let the town down. There was a lot of positive enthusiasm about Roger, and we want to keep that going. And we want to continue the magic, so to speak. So you might start seeing little things popping up around town that have to do with, branding. And that's really all I have to say. That's really all that's been going on. We are going to be hearing later from Lee Roth, because I asked him to give us a report about his meeting that he had in December at 90 Main, about, directly after we got the survey results. So I think that's important that we hear that. And you should all have a copy of the November minutes. And if you want to take a minute to look over those, that would be fine. You've already done that. Yeah. And now I'm going to hand it over to.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes by Mayor Griner. Do we have a second? Second. All those approved? Yes. Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Yes.
Yes, what?
Abstain.
Oh. One abstention.
Jeffrey,
Actually,
I wasn't here. So.
Okay. Jan and Ryan. And Michelle. Sorry. Maybe because they were not at the meeting.
I was at the meeting, but I don't have a vote.
Well, you didn't have a vote, yes. Treasury report. Do you have that? I'm going to get a treasury report and move Debbie, since she's now handling our books. She did very consistent at QuickBooks, and I like to mention. It's, we Is that what, three or four sessions? Three. And there will be more to come, I'm sure.
Gray hairs are starting to come back. Okay, this is as of the end of November, because I don't have the back statements from the December yet, so we're not yet on month. Provident checking accounts, current balance as of November 30th is $223,148.41. $223,548.41. That's profit. The unit reserve account, the balance was $50,449.77. And the Hopewell Valley Bank, which is the 90-day debit card, balance of $166.26. Committee standings, beautification and safety, balance was $26,241.26. Planning and recruiting, balance $93,667.29. Marketing and events, balance $11,861.62. Restaurant, balance $1,456.94. Administrative balance $69,892.52. That's it.
The motion to approve the treasury report?
What point is it?
We don't approve, we just accept.
That's what I just said, to accept the treasury report.
I thought you said.
Because of, excuse me, like the, forgive me, I'm first speaking anyway, so, if there's a question on that, let's write, let's see where we're.
Well, we can do the motion, a second, and then you can ask the question. You know the opportunity to do that. Robert? Second? Jan? Any questions?
Okay, we typically would assume you'd ask questions before you approve.
It's okay.
So, quick question on the non-union account. So you said there's $123 balance for that. I know there was funds outstanding from last year that all of that. There was funds outstanding from last year. I know that there was some monies that they were still owed towards the end of the year that were appropriated for them. Do we know if that's been transferred?
It was transferred until in December, so that she's telling you the balance as of the end of November.
Got it. Okay, so what additional funds are being transferred to them?
$2,000.
Additional $2,000. I thought it was $5,000 or something like that. Okay.
There was, over $5,000 was debited from the line item and put into the HBC account for that to spend. And then an additional $2,000 was taken from the line item of the budget and added to the debit card in December.
Okay, we appropriated original, like $12,000.
Yes, but you need to realize that although originally the 6 went in and the other 6 technically should have gone in, they opened an account at Tech and started spending against it.
Okay.
So that's why they didn't get exactly. So we deduct. So obviously,
Can I speak to that?
as they were spending their funds from PrintTech, then those bills came to us and we paid from that account.
All right.
$5,000?
Well, we can give you a breakdown, but obviously that's what the difference was, is what they got.
Breakdown of what those were, so I can just want to be able to.
Yeah, I mean, we sent them to Bill, so he's got them.
I have a question. So there is, I think there is just a error in a few of the line items were accounting-wise put the wrong thing. So they were attributed to being, money was given to that one account that we paid the thing on. And then also put on, it was double price basically, it was twice on. And then it looks like it's just an error. I'm not saying there's an issue there, but I think there's an error, and I identified that and send it. I did send that to you, but there was still some question on it.
Well, you can come in and go over it with us.
Okay. Sure.
Just let us know when you want to do that.
Just want to make sure, as you know, as council had moved to increase the budget last year to appropriate those funds, want to make sure that, you know, ultimately the funds being for it.
Yeah, and the only money that we held back
Okay.
was it $800 roughly?
Something like that.
Just over $800,
Or,
which will pay for the fire and security
okay.
bills
For 2016. Correct.
But there's budget approved yet. So at least those bills will be paid once,
Okay.
as you said before.
Just another quick question. 223,543. I'm guessing that's the surplus that's still remaining for the your general funds from last year.
Leave it with the,
Because I mean, in the budget we were presented it only 100 and something thousand, low 100.
this is as of November 3rd.
I mean, that's
I mean, more checks were written in December, I just don't have statement checks right
Got
now.
it. Okay. Okay. All right. That's all my questions.
A question. Did we deal with questions of expenditure during the committee report or now during the financial report? For example, I noticed that the holiday decorations apparently are about $15,000 in the budget. Should that be addressed now or when the committee reports on expenses?
Yeah, I think,
Okay. I'm curious as to how we spent almost $25,000 on holiday decorations.
We spent $11,000 on the presents that were built for the courthouse steps. The sleigh, first sleigh for 1950. We spent about $5,000 on the Christmas decorations, the balls, and we spent about another $3,000 on the labor to have all the decorations hung throughout the town.
We spent how much on the balls?
Almost $5,000.
Yeah, I actually happened to come across a catalog just around holiday time, and I saw like this picture. It was exactly that. Honestly, I just got a face pop. That's a lot of money for. I mean, they look great.
The reception from people has been like probably the most popular thing that has been on Main Street in years. So everybody, there was a person on Facebook who took a Christmas card. That was her background on the Christmas card.
Well,
I haven't seen anything else in town that has, when I had the courthouse set up with the presents.
oh, they look
display.
great. Oh, they look great. But
That's
it's
weird.
just the price that.
Bob, I invite you every month to my committee meeting. Every month I invite you. And every month you sit here and do it. Every month I tell you it's the second Wednesday at 9 a.m. at the bid office. You're more than welcome to be a part of my committee. So Angela, Jerry, and I have been working on decorations.
Well, the thing is, when I see that price, we had looked at something actually that benefits you. And Mayor's going to be hard of hearing the same. But we looked at temporarily turning the Highline property into parking until it gets sold and there's some disposition. And we went to some engineers, and the price was about $4,000 to do that. And I mean, we've got a problem parking, right? In evenings, the streets are crowded. Having parking there would be great for you. I mean, it would be not to mention the rest of the businesses in that spot.
Okay.
And honestly, I think we could, if we had spend that money on parking and something a little less expensive as a decoration, that would have been the best of both worlds.
well, that's not really in our purview to deal with that, so that's up to the council.
That's
That's
their
not up to
problem.
us.
You know, we kind of.
It's council's
And that has nothing to do with the money, and that's what we're talking about right now. So we really need to get that on focus.
Well, there's two aspects of it. One, it would seem to me that to overspend a budgeted line item, it would have to come to the board and have money shifted around within the budget to get the money there to do it. And I don't recall any board vote to make that change. It seems to me that roughly $25,000 is a lot of money for decorations. And it even raises the question, when you buy things like the sleigh and those big walls, how you're going to store all this stuff.
The company that installs the snowflakes is where we got the balls from. They actually store it for us. They come to, they take them, put them up, take them down. The sleigh, Jerry,
Prior to buying the sleigh,
renting it.
Bob Gentry from Depps, he's got a warehouse. That's where it's going to be.
And now we own it. And now we own the balls. So there's no
Last year, we
expense
spent
next year.
money and didn't get anything.
Last year we spent a lot of money on balls. And we got nothing back.
We're definitely better than last year, so let's move on.
Last year was about, just so everybody knows, it was about $8,000 just in labor. This year, I actually made it so that we could purchase items, and our labor was only $3,000, not $8,000. And half the stuff that was purchased last year ended up in the garbage because it was disposable. So I think moving forward, the goal is to have something for longevity as opposed to paying for something that you're not getting a return on.
Now, one of those balls was what?
Yeah, it was
Permanently
damaged.
damaged?
Yeah, I think she's gonna talk about that.
Okay.
During her
Real quick,
report.
please, I mean, this is a matter of process. I mean, I'm just making this my first meeting, I'm just making a reflection here. I mean, if funds were appropriated to Roseanne's committee, let our committee make the decision on how to spend those funds. I mean, I agree with Lee to the respect of that. If the committee's going to overrun its budget, then yeah, there probably should be, as a matter of process and procedure, a discussion and a reappropriation of funds to cover that or not. But spend 20 minutes hashing about how much to spend on Christmas balls, I think it's kind of a waste of time.
I agree.
Unless there's a total, just a matter of procedure.
Thank you.
All right, so does everybody accept the, treasurer's report? Any, body not accepted? Any abstentions? All right, executive director report. Just a couple highlights that I'll touch base on. As you know, Debbie is our treasurer, or has been our treasurer for the past 3 years. And when she resigned her position from Provident Bank in 2015, the board voted to keep her on to the end of 2015 so she can complete her duties as treasurer. She has completed that, and she was asked if she would like to continue on, and she opted not to, as we froze the board, as is, and she decided not to do that. However, with that said, she said that she would actually stay on board and will finalize the December records and the 2015 year for us. So she and Eileen are working on that to bring that to completion so we can get everything ready for our auditor and our accountant. Wanted to also let you know in regards to finances that we did get the line of credit from Provident Bank. They were going to charge us about $415 in fees, and went down to $165. They basically only gave us the their hard costs and passed those along. The workers' comp insurance audit was completed with AM Trust. Roseanne will talk a little bit about the police report, but we do have that one police report that we spoke about earlier. We had 3 open requests in the month of December. I wanted to specifically thank the volunteers who came out this past year to help us with all the events that we've done. I especially wanted to recognize Karen Yao. She's not even a resident. She actually is an employee of Karen's. And Karen Yao has been phenomenal. She has come to every single one of the cultural series and worked the door for us. And, she's become a very valuable volunteer. And it's great when you have somebody who repeatedly comes back. She's done this now for 2 years for us. And you don't have to retrain anyone to do something. It's really nice, and she's very good. I also wanted to recognize Barbara Kaiser. She has done a tremendous amount of work for the BID, in regards to her talents, creating logos and all the digital and printed collateral that we've done for the different events. She's also spent a lot of her time and effort volunteering and running things like this Thursday night chalk art contest and business holiday facade contest. And I really wanted to commend both of those ladies for the amount of work that they've done. When we sat down as a staff and we were like, who were some other than the two of them? I mean, a lot of people stood out, but they were the two that were there, dependable year round. So, just wanted to give them recognition today. As Susan said, I really wanted to recognize and acknowledge all the businesses and property owners that came out on the 29th. I'm sure council can echo what I'm about to say, which is I've never seen that room packed with so many positive, energetic people since I've been involved in the bid. There was standing room only. Every single person in there got up and said something very positive about the work that's been going on in town and what the bid has meant to them and moving forward with their plans and developing their properties. So it really was a good show of the fact that we do have a lot of very positive people who are in this town that are looking forward to moving on. As Susan mentioned, she and I met with the two consultants this past week, and they wanted to be here today. Unfortunately, they both had prior commitments, but their plans really are to work with the revising the 2016 budget, and it's more of a format more than anything else. They're not going to come in and tell us that we need to change our line items per se, but it's more formatting. They're also going to work with us to revise the bylaws and restructure the board. They would like to come back in February and do the presentation and have the board vote on the budget at that meeting so that it can go to council at their later February meeting. And then we can have that as the first introduction and the second hearing in March. So that is their time frame. They will be meeting with myself as well as council members to get this underway. Robert, I know you're going to talk a little bit about the bylaws committee under your report, but they would very much like to work with whomever that's going to be and have those meetings happen prior to the February meeting. So whoever's going to be on that.
February is for presentation of their proposed budget, but not the bylaws.
They actually would like to have both done at that meeting. It may not be finalized, but it's their goal to present it to the board at the February meeting. And then, as far as the bylaws are concerned, have those voted on for March.
So, to clarify, it's your February board meeting is the 3rd, right?
Is that the first Wednesday?
Yeah.
Okay.
And council meets on the 8th.
Okay.
So your goal would be to have a first reading
On the 8th.
Okay.
According to, yes.
Let's follow that through. So then 30 days after that would be February 28th would be the council. You just missed the 7th.
Okay.
So it would be the 28th. Right. Just checking.
If that changes in any way, obviously, we'll update you on that.
So when would the second meeting be?
The second reading, then, if the first reading is February 8th, then you have to allow 30 days, so that would take us to the second reading in March, which would be March 28th. Which makes the first quarter.
Correct. Which is what we were talking about from day one. That was the goal.
Yeah.
So, just to respond to that, I don't believe it's reasonable to expect the bylaws to be done by now. We don't control consultants, they can make their recommendations, they will have to be brought into the committee, vetted.
But the budget is the budget.
No, but she also says.
Well, what they're going to do, Robert, is they are actually taking bylaws, they're actually within the bylaws, and they're taking the best practices out of the bylaws and they're creating a template. So I spoke to that today, and she did indicate that they, and I told her that your committee would want to look at those and probably put some things that are applicable to Flemington directly in there. So that's the goal, is to get that to y'all and work at the template for that's to be approved, and then you can add in the extra things that you want.
Well, when I get into the HR, I'll touch on
Okay.
it. There's definitely some logistics that have to be
Sure.
addressed.
And they're gonna work with it. So
I just want to caution everybody here that we already went down the road of using a boilerplate bylaw and it put us in a very bad position. And we need to learn from that experience. So, we're willing to take in and read what they have, go through it, but I also think we need to give it to an attorney and make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted, because there's huge gaping holes in the template that we use.
and one of the things that we did talk about was exactly that. So it's not like it's not gonna happen. But your goal is to get that. I'm sorry?
They've seen our bylaws and they do recognize that there are some holes in
Correct,
our
yeah.
bylaws.
And
so
those
they want to merge them together and kind of work with whoever's on that bylaw committee to
Correct.
come up with proper bylaws.
And the bylaws that the BID adopted from day one was a boilerplate template that was done by a BID attorney. So it wasn't like, but things have kind of changed a little bit.
Is
So.
there a written list anywhere of exactly what you consider to be wrong with the current bylaws? I don't need to see it here, I'm just saying, does that exist so you know exactly what it is you're trying to fix?
We're going to provide that, but it's not, I have notes on it, there's things that come up in other board meetings, which need to be addressed, which we need to put it on that list, but we will compile the master list and use it as a checklist to ensure that it addresses, the new bylaws address all those issues that come up.
That's all I have.
And if I could, just said, I have one question on your report. The line of credit, I was trying to finish what you're going through. The line of credit, how much was that looking for?
$90,000.
90,000 line of credit. What was the purpose for the request? I wasn't privy to.
Was it 2 years ago that we started with the line of credit, I believe? It was
Yeah, we did it
shortly
because-
after I got involved.
We did it because payment was late, like 1 year, 2 years ago. Tax bills were late going out, which delayed payments to the bid because of delayed collections. They extended the due date of the taxes, and in order to prevent us being in a cash shortfall position, we took out the line of credit. We have it in reserve just in case we whatever.
We've never touched it, we've never used it to this day, but it's just an approval to have a line of credit case.
Is that it? Okay, we'll go to Rosanna then, the first committee report.
Okay. Of course, my meeting, we meet on the second Wednesday of every month at the bid office at 9 a.m. Again, everyone is welcome to come. Right now, as the committee stands, it's Angelo, Jerry, Bob, Gil, and myself. So, as you all see, that we have the banners put up at Stengel. The poles are small, and there's only a certain size that the banners can be. But from what I hear from just people coming in to eat during lunch or dinner, it's been nice comments hearing, and we have no idea that I'm going to do anything to do with that. So like, when I say that was our committee, it's actually nice to hear that it was a sincere appreciation of it. Jerry purchased, he found us a slate of purchase right before November. It was $1,950. The two guys that we had hired to do the labor cleaned it up. They touched up all the rust up. They painted it. If you see it downstairs on the porch, it looks nice and shiny, brand new. They actually filled in all the wood and made it look really nice. I'm still working on the banner system for the streets. We're still waiting on the CenturyLink approval. Once we have that, then we would be able to go ahead, hopefully, budget passes, and get the banners in order for that. Okay, so the Christmas presents that we had built, they are heavy boxes made out of real wood. They are stackable. The tops come off, stack them inside each other. We had a beautiful display built on the porch. And just so everybody knows, we had the Christmas trees up there, and it was a really beautiful scene. And the goal was, from the street looking up, you could see something. You drive by, that's what you would see. Carrie and I spoke briefly about decorations, and we had to go ahead, but unfortunately, the garden club that was decorating didn't like anything, so pretty much we had to take all the trees out, we had to take most of the boxes out. I was trying my hardest to fix it that day, figuring how we could fix this and keep some of the stuff there and where we could put the trees. I mean, the stuff was literally on the sidewalk. And I'm like, this isn't great. So I had the trees moved over to 90 Main, where the barricade is, because I thought that was nice to hide that. And then the boxes, I asked them if they could put the large ones in front of the poles, which is what you all see. So at least they didn't get fully kicked out. But moving forward, Carrie and I agreed that we would get together sometime in January, February, so that way we know what we're going to be creating this year. And she actually said that she would most likely get like 30-foot trees donated for underneath there, so the larger boxes would actually look great with those trees. So moving forward, I think we're going to have even a better scene next year. The large Christmas balls that we had purchased, as you all know, they're about $5,000. It's a little under that, but roughly $5,000. I noticed that a couple of balls were kind of off to the side as I pulled down Williams to go park in my parking lot back there. I did call the police to get a police report because they were pretty much taken apart and they're all bolted together and pretty much secured to the ground. And I was told that they were actually taken, or they were found in the street prior to that. So there was already a police report made on it. My son bolted the three back together onto the base, and the gold one we put on the porch at the bid office. I had it in my restaurant for a day and a half, but I don't have room for it. It was 3 feet wide. I think we will need the police report. I'm not sure if the company is going to, the only thing that really has to be fixed is the base of the ball. That's the part that's snapped, so I'm sure they can fix it. It's only $5. I really just wanted to say a huge thank you to Angela, Jerry, Bob, and even Megan. They have helped so much with when we had done the corn stalks and the house. I always have a problem saying that. Bales of hay, the pumpkins, and decorating. And then just so you all know, the two guys that we hired to hang the decorations will be back here on the 20th to take everything down and store. I will say this now, I will most likely be purchasing large plastic storage bins because the company that was hired last year put everything into cardboard boxes and the basement got wet. And a lot of that stuff got ruined in, as far as a professional company coming in, they should have been put into plastic bins last year. So this year, we will be purchasing that to this day that are for our use next year.
Hopefully we can like Christmas decorations when they're on sale in January and February.
That's the thing too.
Yeah.
Those Christmas balls, Bob, right now in January and February, I had future plans to purchase more decorations for the area. Half price is like 2 times the amount of inventory that we can get. And I'm pretty frugal when it comes to spending. I like to think I want to find that. And like I had said before, we did purchase this stuff, but now we own it. We're not renting it anymore. We're not wasting money. I feel like last year and the year before prior to that, we just been wasting money. Now it's like becoming investment. And then I just wanted to say thank you to Betsy also because she really kind of took on something that was part of beautification and safety in our reality with the holiday lights and getting so many people involved. It was really nice to drive down the street, like even in the middle of the night and see everybody's place lit up and still lit up. It's really nice. It's a good feeling. So.
How many ballots?
That's it.
How many ballots?
Over 700.
I have a question about
Yeah.
the pole banners.
Yes.
You said before that they had to be small. What is the constraint factor on the size?
I forget what Mike had told me when he came out, but because the poles are only about like that and they're only so high, like it's right from the light, it has to be so many feet from the ground so somebody doesn't hit it. So that's like the stipulation, and that's why for that size.
When you put banners on other streets, will they be a little bit bigger?
Yes, but there's still a guideline. They still have to be so many feet from an electrical line, they have to be so many feet from the street. So even if you wanted a 5-foot banner, they might say you can only have a 3-foot banner.
And when will you have a finals
A final one?
design for the banners?
Well, we have this final design that came through Roger Brooks.
Yeah. We have all the Flemington Fresh logos. That's the design that
It
I
was shown at the public meeting in October.
Well,
Showed
because
all
the
designs.
banners on Stanley, there's like several different designs.
Yeah, he had my different
He
designs
has
all
those on the slide, yeah.
Okay. Well, I thought when he was showing samples.
No.
Well, you mean for holiday?
No, just for whatever, like the Flemington Fresh or Flemington or whatever.
Flemington Fresh, I actually, that's what I put up at Stay Home to launch, like, the Flemington Fresh and to,
Well, because what's there, again, there's like 2 or 3 different designs.
Yeah.
That's what Roger did. That's
we
what
actually
Roger
have
did.
6 different designs.
There's actually more than what's up there.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of designs that he did.
And he did those designs.
Yes,
And you're going to use those are going to be your final, that's your final design.
yes. That's what they gave us.
I
The
think,
October meeting.
Oh, okay, because I spoke with John Welsh, and he said he didn't know anything about it.
you
So,
spoke to John and he didn't know anything about it?
Yeah.
I asked him about that. He said he doesn't.
I have emails from him with those in my email. Those designs are in the email.
He emailed us to us.
I am confident that you will pick
Yeah.
better matters than I would pick.
My committee.
In fact, I'm glad I don't have to.
My committee actually picked out holiday theme, we picked out like 4th of July theme. We picked out different ones for the, for like the Main Street area, the Church Street, those streets. It's a little bit different. Watching Flemington Fresh over there, the wood design especially over by Fish Grill and Port. I think that just adds that nice feeling over there.
Okay, thank you. Jeff, planning and recruitment.
As Susan mentioned, we just received the preliminary timeline, brand new timeline from Bobby Brooks International. And it's a timeline from 2016 to 2020. It's made up of 63 items, some of which the BID will be doing, some of which the council, the borough will be doing. He has some monetary he's placed monetary figures on some of the items in here, some are for free. The number 1 item on here is to reboot BID, will now be known as Destination Flemington. He asked us to secure destinationflemington.com and .org. As it turns out, that's already taken by a member of the BID. Leave off has that domain name, so we were going to ask Lee if he could willing to donate that to the borough if he's not using it. We have secured destination-flemington.com and .org and Flemington.j.com, just in case we can't get those. websites. What do you say?
I said we'd work it out. That's a blog that I have been using. I haven't used it for years. I've got to deal with that aspect of it. And I'm sure we'll be able to make it.
Okay, great. Yeah. Some of the other items on here to change the bylaws. You don't have to pay for that because the council is willing to do that. So that was our second step. So thanks for that. And then you're going to have board member assignments. So at my next planning and recruiting meeting, which will be next Thursday, we're going to divvy up these 63 items between different committees. So I don't know if everyone could be there or not. It'll be next Thursday at 4 o'clock. The office. There's some scary figures in here, and there's some not so scary figures. And this is just brief descriptions of each item. It doesn't tell us how to get them yet. That report's coming, I think about another 30 days. So there'll be more detail for each line item.
Is that all the items, though?
I don't know.
He's just going to flesh them out for delivery?
Well, when he gives us the report, and like I said, because originally he said it would be 30 to 90 days,
90
comes
days,
back
yeah.
in October. 30, yeah. He's given us basically an action book that's going to have all the graphic IDs and things like that, as well as every project going forward. He gave this to us as a preliminary, so we could actually look to implement some of it into our budget.
Like the idea of the plaza. He just said we're going to need however much money for this plaza, and then in this action plan, he's going to tell us where we can find these funds potentially.
Only about
Yeah.
10.2 million.
Yeah.
Avoid that.
Yeah.
Our energy budget is
And I'll be distributing this to the entire committee once my committee has reviewed it and divvied everything up.
Is your intention to get the other action items among the existing committees, or is your intention to form new committees to tackle the action items?
Well, it's going to be difficult right now because I know we're restructuring. So right now I'm going to put it between the committees that we have. It may be restructured.
Do you have an idea how many dollars we need for next year, for this year, 2016?
I think that the 350 will cover. Now, one of the things in here you did talk about is getting out of the event plan and passing that over to other people. Like I know Ron Van Horn, he does a great job with the car shows, and that's self-sustaining, and I believe that makes money. So we'd like to see that happen with other events.
And that actually went out on YouTube last, maybe just sent out, about events.
Oh, you mean about getting people to help out and take over?
Take over,
Yes.
yeah.
So if we can free up funds from that, that'll also
And his recommendation, since you're on the topic, is to pick 1 to 2 signature events.
Right.
And to try to get other people to own the other events. And like you said, Juan pretty much owns and does the car show, and it doesn't really take much of our time to deal with it. Just some preliminary stuff, the bookkeeping and things like that.
And we do give money toward that, but then we have sponsors and we get that back.
We budgeted the money, and then, yes.
So just for a historical perspective, that has been the objective all the way back when Eric was running EDC. And that was to enroll other organizations to come in town and do events. The Organizers have been doing the craft fair forever. There's been a couple other events.
The girls in the line, the turkey trot,
Right.
yeah, lots of different things.
So, it's
he's talking about plaza and creating every day.
Those are other.
But you're right, they would not be, I agree, these, they would not be directly.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go through.
I think I'll go next because the marketing events kind of goes with what we're talking about now. And I know Roger, like you just said that we need to get out of the event business. And we were trying to come up with 2 signature events that would fit in with the Flemington Fresh theme. And, you know, the Tomato Corn Festival is certainly one of those, and the Jazz Festival is huge. And that has a lot to do with the emerging, you know, art scene and whatnot. So those 2 we are still going to continue to do. You know, we're not going to be able at this time to still give sponsorships. We've had a couple of people come to us and ask for that and kind of explained our situation now, but we are sponsoring the Health and Wellness Fair because we told them in the fall that we would. And they agreed to take it on again. So we're not going to pull back, you know, because we already said yes. And that's going to be in early March. And it's going to be a daytime only event. And we should be getting information out very soon about that. Let me see what else. As far as the marketing, you know, I love Destination Flemington. I think it's really positive, and what I especially like about it is that instead of downtown Flemington, it's more encompassing and it includes all the shopping areas, so to speak, all the business areas. And do we need to vote on that like next month, if that's acceptable, or are we just going to go with what Roger says, or I'm not quite sure.
Pay the professional.
Okay, so I guess we're going to go with what he says, but you know, I think it's a great idea. And since we're not going to be doing as many events, I feel Gina will have a lot more time to push the marketing and the promotion for getting other people to have events here. You know, maybe we just help by sponsoring all these other people that are going to be doing things here. You know, we have to build it up. And other than that, one other thing is we want to ask Kevin to help out with the arts things that are going on in town. And maybe give him money each month. I mean, needs to be flushed out.
And
But-
actually, Susan, that's item number 4.
Is it? Yeah,
the
they
list.
met
Yeah.
Kevin, loved Kevin, thought he would be fabulous doing things along those lines.
And it would be something that would be hands-off for the bid, so they don't have to come in front of us and ask our permission.
Yeah, they have
To
freedom.
do an art exhibit. They don't need to get approvals from anyone. They're given the freedom to do what an artist does best.
So we'd like to move forward with that. And other than that, you know, that's really about it. It's too soon to start planning for the summer events.
Susan, if I may, I think it would be a good idea, and I'll make the motion, that we approve the use of Destination Flemington and Flemington Fresh as our branding, to get the board, to get it on the record, the board is behind using this. And the reason for that is because Flemington populace is unmerciful in social media. Maybe Joe Novick is behind this. There's a lot of criticism around governance and the way we do things. So as a point of order, I think we should move to accept those brands, if you will, as the official brands that
I would say.
So shall we move in favor? Any opposed? Any abstention?
I have a question. Now, do we wait 30 days before we vote on it, so people can talk about it and think about it?
Unless there's something in your bylaws that says you have to do that for that kind of thing. It's just
No, there isn't. I just offer that as a courtesy, because I don't want anyone to feel that they're getting, this
Now, on something like that,
pushback.
my take, not that I'm not the authority, but my take would be you're simply documenting.
What?
You're simply documenting that you agree with it and you're behind it, so it's on record.
And we're agreeing with the expert that we
And
hired.
if somebody asks, you can say, yes, we called.
Okay, so we
Covered
should-
it at a board meeting.
Okay.
So,
I'm a little confused. What's the relationship between the names Flemington Fresh and Destination Flemington?
Flemington Fresh isn't a name, it's just a tag. So
they're both elements of the brand. There's different elements.
Well, when we do something or promote something, what's the name that's going to be on there? There's going to be one particular name.
They're not covered by Roger Brooks. There's not one particular slogan that is always out there. Even the Flemington Fresh has a whole lot of elements to that. There's farmers table restaurants, arts and crafts, and microbreweries, there's yoga classes, there's all kinds of things. It's not just one slogan.
But the bid uses downtown Flemington a lot. So instead of that, it would be destination Flemington.
Susan, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but about 5 years ago, we came up with a domain name that the bid does own. It's discoverflemington.com. It's close. I don't know if you realize that, but we do own discoverflemington.com. So if you don't get destination Flemington, discoverflemington, I thought was what we use now.
We haven't paid for that since I've been here, so it might not be.
Might want to check.
I can double check and see what this
Yeah,
is.
discoverflemington.com is what we used originally for recruitment efforts. So.
Definitely positive.
If I could, I just wanted to add a comment to that. Just that, one, I think, when it comes to making major brand changes like that, I think it's probably not a bad idea to ask for, the result of the body to ensure that it's approved and it's supported. But generally speaking, maybe I think you should be able to make those decisions on their own. Bring every decision like that to the board. It's cumbersome. And just as a matter of professional form, I think that mentioning in any kind of negative light any member of the public, particularly on record, I think is unprofessional. State that should avoid doing that at all costs. It doesn't help with relations in any regards.
Good point. Okay.
You can look at it, sort of. Yeah, I've got control of it, so I can work it out. I don't think there's any risk that it's not going to be able to use it.
Okay, so that's really all I have. But I would like to throw this out here. Would anyone like to chair marketing and events? Because it's been a real burden for me to do both jobs. I mean, especially last summer, putting on, the summer events in town hall, and then, worrying about, the whole organization. If anyone thinks they might be able to do that, I'd be most appreciated.
Well,
Do you see my head there right now? I do.
Now,
Oh my God.
if no one here can do it, then if there's somebody else who might, they might be a good candidate for
Yeah.
a board.
Yeah, maybe that becomes part of the restructuring goal. Yeah, because I have to tell you, it's really been a lot for me. And, my business partner is like, Susan, you gotta do something. Because I'm hardly at T-Bears now. But just think about it, and maybe we can find a solution to that, because it's been a lot for me. Okay, so.
Susan, I'd be willing to talk to you about that.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to hear from HR, from Robert.
It's going to be brief. There's not much that happened last month, mainly because of the debacle of the council and their whatever. But the goal was to engage an attorney, which we still need to do. And when our committee gets together, we're going to go through the process to have some input as to recommendations for an attorney to help us out with this. But that will, as soon as we convene our committee, which right now there are a few members that I'm looking to invite to that, workable and useful.
I have one suggestion. We need to have very specific time frames in there. You know, of like when you need to have the budget ready. You know, it has to just be clear as anything, so there's no ambiguity about that.
I will provide.
Because I feel like we need to start working on the budget in February to make sure we have it ready in time. You know, it just should be easy for the next chairman to know exactly what they need to do. You know, a good map.
Along with that, there needs to be some sort of, not in the bylaws, but from an operational perspective, certain standards and checklists that have to be put in place so that management knows when to do things.
Exactly.
So,
Right. It can cover every job. It needs to be specific.
that's something else that HR will take on.
Okay.
Let's get to the bylaw restructuring.
One of the things we were talking about, something actually we brought up, which I agree with, was here we're emphasizing having small people like the originally said, oh, there should just be branding committee, especially with that. And some of the way that the fund structure is going to be, how can you write the bylaws? Should we kind of figure out what the structure should be and what else to
Well, we're going to listen to what the consultant is going to recommend, but we also have, our own consultants, the Roger Brooks. We're going to listen to what they have to say, and then the committee will make the recommendations.
So it's no way to sort of present this before.
And that's why I think it's, kind of unreasonable to expect that this board has to approve whatever it is before we can, recommend it to council.
This board would actually have to change bylaws before you change structure. You have to change your bylaws to change the structure almost. I mean, you kind of do. In a sense, that was part of the process that we discussed the other day. We had a meeting, an ongoing meeting with consultants that were talking with their basically bid experts. This is what they do. I will tell you that their recommendation is usually a board of about 11, not 19. It's definitely structured differently. In their eyes, it would be definitely smaller. And Roger Brooks' team, we've also had conversations with them as well, and they appreciate a smaller bid with a different makeup.
So we actually do this twice, right?
I think it's a compilation of what we're going to get from Roger Brooks' suggestions from a branding perspective, and then a perspective from bid experts, and how to put them together with what works for everybody.
The genesis of this was that a certain kind of being on board that we don't have. So originally, the idea was to change the bylaws so that we can appoint people with the skill set that we need. And then as well as we maintain the election, but also integrate brand new leadership team into that and have the board as the board's we don't know what it's going to be like yet. We let that out.
Yeah, that's what I was
It's very good for the consultants. They were speaking with Megan and Susan Hinkler at the meeting. They spoke with myself, Phil, and Brian, and have asked us questions too. So we're kind of all trying to compile data for them to be able to come up with suggestions. Yeah.
Robert, on your committee, does it make sense to have a member of council? I think so.
I don't know. I mean, it's, we have.
If you have the time, I mean, the more we can do together, I think the better the outcome will be.
That's what we're trying this effort. Back in December, before Christmas, we're trying to make these efforts to work together.
Yeah.
We don't want to turn it into another big group.
No.
But on the other hand, the council is represented by, they hire representation there. So, the question is whether we really need someone from council if they're being represented by the consultant.
I would actually let our consultants just work.
Okay. As long as if you're comfortable with that, I'm comfortable with that. I just want to make sure you're comfortable.
We're there, if they're feeling like they're making progress working directly with you, that's probably the most efficient.
Okay.
So
All right.
whatever is, we're not guiding them, they're guiding us. So.
I think it's important, and I want to say this, that it be just the consultants. And the reason for that is, there's this whole idea of control over the bid. And principle, waiting to the consultant is sufficient, any more than that might be perceived by the community as being overhanded.
I think that's a goal that it's supposed to be a public-private partnership between the borough and BID. The borough and council established BID, work together hand in hand for the business community and for the residents. So, I'm willing to let consultants, because I'm not a BID expert, neither is anyone here. We're letting them do this because we don't know what we're doing. We don't know what we don't know. So, we're not branding experts, and
Sounds like
we're not qualified for this either.
Okay.
So we're willing to just do whatever.
Okay, so it sounds like we all agree with this. Is that it, Robert?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
But I do want to point out that afterwards, we need to work on some standard operating procedures that are going to address the management of it moving forward as far as timelines and when things have to happen, because a lot of the issues we've run into with the balance of this year of 2015 was because things weren't executed.
Exactly.
And of course, we had the resignation of the HR committee chair and some other issues.
It's been quite a year, I agree, in many ways. Okay, moving on to old business. I asked Bill before these area here if he would just speak for a few moments about the wonderful meeting he had at the bank in November.
We did a financing your business workshop, and it was actually done through the United Economic Development Group. And basically what they do in workshop, what they are, train seminars. And what they do is they have different classes, different courses, they teach you about unit credit, pricing your, how to price your business, your products, your services, different things like that. Ours was more of an introductory type of thing. And basically what they touched on there was financing options available to small businesses, and then you get international rates and loans program or whatever to specific needs of your business and so forth. And it was very successful, I thought. I had a lot of feedback from people that were there. And the presenter there was Eric Hubert. Very good job, I thought. I think we got more people really potentially expected. And Eric did meet several people after the workshop. And I myself have followed up with a couple right now, just working on one bank stuff. So it was a good thing. It was something that I think brought some of the people thinking that they didn't know we could do this again. There's very little cost involved. Quite frankly, right a little back page and food, and it was really just reflections. But it really was very little cost for us to doing it. And it's very positive. Teaches a lot of new, and this is for new businesses as well. Now we have a lot of business in the area, but if we really get this out and market it even better than we've done, perhaps we can get anyone that's looking to come into the state to the attendees, and then hopefully at that point maybe we can talk a little bit about funding and then have that or so forth.
Thank you so much for doing that. I definitely think we should continue. Start planning another one. Okay, now we're going to go to Lee, who's going to talk about the 90 Main Street meeting that we had in December.
Susan said I had a meeting. I really didn't have a meeting. What we had was the board meeting for that day was called off. And I thought that having a scheduled meeting planned for that day, except for the people who said they were so busy with the holiday they couldn't have a board meeting, we ought to at least get together because there's so many things to discuss. There had just been this survey, and as I read a copy of the survey, it was fairly negative. And I thought that it would be good to let people have the public meeting that we had talked about a year or two ago. We had talked back when Bobby Benjamin was chair, that we would have at least 2 public meetings a year, and we haven't had those. So I thought, all right, this is an occasion where a certain number of the board members at least had planned on meeting at that time. And we just had this survey out, and I had communications from it to several board members about that. Joey Novick was one, Bob was one, and there were, I think, one or two others. And so I said, well, let's at least have a meeting. It's not or a gathering. It's not a formal meeting. It's not a board meeting. We don't need a record of it. It'll give people a chance to raise questions that we might be able to answer. We can't answer them. We can find answers. It'll give people that want to vent an opportunity to vent. And so we said, let's get together. Where will we meet? Joey volunteered as borough councilman at the time, and as somebody who's been working closely with the 90 Main Street group. He said, let's hold it at 90 Main Street. We discussed how many people were likely to show up, and agreed it probably wouldn't be more people than could be accommodated by that facility. So let's meet there, and he volunteered to be the person who facilitated the meeting. So I had no particular interest other than I think we ought to do this. And so he agreed to do that, and he did. I was surprised when I got there and found out that what I thought he had ordered video and recording and all sorts of things, I later found out from him that he hadn't, somebody else had. But at any rate, we had a decent turnout of people. There were 6 or 8 business owners, there were some property owners, there were some council people. The council people immediately explained that they weren't going to say anything because somebody might charge them with having a meeting in violation of the Sunshine Law because they hadn't announced the meeting. We do have some kind of interesting rules that more than a few council people elected anybody can't get together and discuss anything. So most of them just sat through and observed. But we did hear from a number of people. We heard a combination of both positive and negative things. I don't think there was anybody there that had a strong view that they didn't want to see the bid continue. There were people who said they didn't see where they were getting anything out of the bid. And in fact, there were people who said that some of the bid activities interfered with their ability to do business. That was not foreign to me because most of you know I'm a member of the Harmonizers. I've been involved when they had their street fairs. And, even then, they had businesses that complained that when you have a street fair, people couldn't get to my business. But eventually, we worked it out with those businesses, and they actually became big supporters because they found that if they knew how to handle it, they got more business when the crowd came to town for the street fair and the performances than they had on a normal Saturday or Sunday when there was nothing going on. Following the meeting, Susan asked me if I would just talk about it here. In order to feel prepared, I called a number of people who were there to ask them to expand on some of the thoughts they expressed. And I found there were several things that I think are interesting and we should all know about. One is there are a lot of people who are somewhat intimidated in terms of speaking out, whether it's either negative or positive. And that's because in their effort to do business in this relatively small community, they're afraid if they really express themselves, they might offend somebody, and somebody who's offended isn't going to do business with them. Or they're afraid that if they have negative comments about the municipality and the management of the government of the town, that they'll either have problems getting permits or they'll be having to deal with police supervision of things that they don't want. And in order to talk to a number of people, I had to say to them, I'm not going to say who you were. You're willing to tell me what your thoughts are. And one of the things that came out of it was they said, well, the basic thing the BID does is they run a number of events. And those events don't help my business at all. If I was somebody who was selling ice cream cones and sodas and sandwiches, maybe it would do my business some good, but it doesn't do my business good with what you're doing. I found in talking to people like that, they could begin to understand that even though they may feel they had some disadvantage or faced some problem because of these activities, that if the activities are run right, and if they know about them, and if there's communication, you can raise all boats through some of these activities, and that they can be good for everybody. And that just because something is not particularly good for your business. And I was able to sympathize with a couple of them. I said, I don't get an increase in business when there's a big mob on the street. In fact, the street's closed, I can't even park in my own parking lot. But, you know, we live with these things. And I've concluded myself from those discussions that there are two things that we have to pay a lot of attention to, maybe three. One is we have these statements that our mission is to help preserve business, that is, help the businesses that are here. And that our mission is also to attract business and new business. And a lot of the comments I received was the BID is not doing anything in a direct way that any of these people can see. Now, some of it that I know about, I was able to talk to these people about, but I could tell them that even as a board member, I often don't know what's going on because we don't get full communication, full reports. And I found a lot of sympathy among people, some who were there and spoke there, and some who were there and didn't want to speak there for one reason or another. I think our major challenge is to communicate what we are trying to do, and then to actually focus in on those things that we're trying to do. How are we helping business? How are we bringing in business? Have we identified the places that are available for people to do business? Have we set up the systems to help people? For instance, one of the reports tonight talks about a package to help people get started, to take them through the process with Borough Council and the permitting process. And I've seen that on the report a number of times. I don't really know what progress has been made. And there was criticism all the way around, not only for the BID, but for the borough governing body. And in fact, several of the people said that the BID is trying to do a number of things that the governing body ought to be doing itself. And that is streamlining the process to make it easier for businesses to get permits, to get started. And I told them that we had appeared in May 2014 and provided suggestions, and that the borough has had their planning consultant and others working on some of those things. And I was consistently told, oh, we don't know, we didn't know about that. Nobody's told us. And so I think communication is the major challenge that we're not doing very well with in terms of both the BID members and the citizens. I was glad to see in Megan's report that they identified another 60 or 80 businesses to put on the email list. I think there are more that we'll find if we keep looking for them. But we've got to open up what we do. We've got to have more sessions like that one in 90 May. We've got to let people know what's going on. There is this feeling, and I hear it from many people, that this is almost a secret society, some kind of star chamber, and people don't know what's going on. And that mostly what we're doing is running a handful of events, and that's not helping their particular business. So I think we've got to do a better job in communicating, and we've got to communicate directly. We've got to get the cooperation from all of the media that's available, whether it's the radio shows of the chamber or the new one on Main Street, whether it's the online publications, the got to build better relationships with all of those people, and we've got to communicate properly to them what we're doing. And I think that's the message that came out of it. Nobody wants the negative, but I will tell you, you're always going to have it. You're going to live with it. I know that, you know, when he was, who's got the trophy business in the shopping center, that when he was involved, one of his views that he expressed was when we see these negative things, we have to respond to them. I know there are other people on the board that have said, no, let's ignore them. I happen to agree with him. I think we've got to respond to those things, because otherwise we leave out there on the table all these terrible comments about who's a jerk and who doesn't do this and who doesn't do that. And I think that that's a big part of what needs to be done. We've got 3 people in the office. We've got people who can do that, who can stay on top of that. And I think we need it. I think the borough needs it too, because the borough website is so far behind that when I went to get minutes of what happened at the Agway hearing, which I understood took place, the minutes go back to what, April or something.
It's being fixed.
Good.
Property should have it
Good. Because it's not hard to scan the darn minutes and stick them on the website. And, but, you know, so it's not just the bid, it's not just the borough council. If this is to be an effective private-public partnership, we've got to figure out how to work better together. And that's, I think, the message I got from the people who were there, both there and in follow-up telephone conversations.
You know, borough and council, I think we can work better together. If you hear a complaint about us, you need to come and tell us specifically if they will allow it, who it is, so we can go to them and talk to them, and we'll do the same for you. Okay? Because I think things need to be taken care of as they come up. You know, I'm not one of these don't do anything types. Well, gee, I'm glad you did that meeting, even though you don't want to call it a meeting. But I think it was valuable, and I appreciate it. And same with you, Joey, for taking the time to do that. I think we need suggestion boxes, maybe in Borough Hall as well as at the bid office in the hallway there. If people are afraid to talk, maybe they could at least write it down and drop it off. You know, I'm sorry to hear people are afraid.
I am too, but I have to understand.
I do understand it. I understand it as well.
Professionally deal in a world where there's a lot of that, so it's not far.
Correct. Yeah. So thank you so much. Okay, we're going to hear from Mayor Kleiner. Or comments.
Okay, well, being that it's a new year and all, I'll make a few comments. First of all, as you can see, we have a new council, and you know Brian will be the liaison, so I'd like to, welcome to the board. Also thank Joey for what you did on that behalf of Joey. And Michelle, of course, will be the mayor's designee. She was voted on last year. I made mayor's remarks, as the council did as well, at our reorg meeting, and there's an awful lot that we expect will be going on in Flemington this year in the way of economic development. It includes everything from branding to the streetscape project to, you know, we've got the liquor license rescue now from the bottle prospects that were staring us in the face. There's some nice development possibilities being worked out in the hotel area. We've got the microbrewery going in. A lot of good things that are happening here. So the main thing, I always hammer this, the main thing that people want when they look at a town is they want to see a town that got its act together. That you know, so you got bid, planning board, mayor, council, all need to get on the same page. So in that context, I'm pleased that the tone that I'm seeing here today, that it seems like we will be able to work with these two consultant folks in a smooth way. So I'm encouraged to hear those remarks. One thing those folks, and I think we agree with that, and that they agree. I know I think they had, the Brooks folks had signaled initially that, well, they put that out there, but as we talked it through, I think that the thinking is that I'm going to propose, and not to discuss or agree or disagree tonight, but big board members should clearly be supportive of the branding program, and there should be overlap, and they're clearly related, but an exact one-to-one identity between leadership team and board is a little restrictive, because, you need some skill sets on a bid. You might not need a branding team. Branding leaders might come and go a little more often than elected terms. So I hope that we can advance in that direction as we set up the new board. And lastly, just as an FYI, since it was clearly instrumental in getting the Streetscape grant, we opened RFPs today for the revised RFP without the street plaza, and we got 6 of them. So our schedule is to each of us evaluate them, reconvene next Wednesday, and hopefully we would be able to award a design contract, or at least decide on awarding a design contract next Wednesday, which is big. The modification to remove the street plaza was significant in 2 ways. One is that we got other alternatives now that we want to consider for plaza rather than walking right into the main street. But it also greatly simplified the project. And by taking that $200,000 or so out of the project, the state agencies agreed that we might be able to use that money to cover some of the soft costs that we were otherwise going to pay for. So I think it's really a win-win. We had some help in the skid trees there with the DOT and the NJTPA, so everyone cooperated, and I think that was a good thing on there. So those are my remarks.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to hear from our guests, members. I just want to say 3 minutes. Okay? Got my watch. Alan.
Yes, Alan Brewer, One Common Line Village. I just want to come and pay a compliment. The decorations were absolutely wonderful. My family from out of state came in, and it was a very warm, very nice thing you did. So kudos to everyone involved in that. I didn't know anything about any type of expenses, anything to do with anything like that. But just from a PR standpoint, I think it's so important that we put our best foot forward, and when people come to town, and great support. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Richard.
First, my compliments to everybody here. I know this is not an easy task to move the town forward. I applaud Lee's comments. That's been one of my pet peeves is there's so much negative information that hits the streets through the press. And anything, even to the extent of having a media person that can tell about the positive things you're doing. And just one last comment on the Christmas balls. I was out putting decorations up on my building. The weather happened to be nice, but there were a number of families out that day that were taking kids up, taking photographs of their kids to get the Christmas balls and get a Christmas effect. And I think there was a lot of positive information, or a lot of positive attitude and benefit that comes from things like that. Thank you all for all the work.
And I see we have Chris Engelhart here, and I'd like to thank her for helping with the gingerbread event at Stangl. She put the royal icing on the gingerbread men while the children put all the different candies on them. Thank you so much for helping. Anyone else? Oh, would you like to say something, Chris?
I wanted to ask a couple of things. I'm just wondering if the banner's going to have Christmas scenes and how that will affect snowflakes.
Rosanna had to leave to get dinner ready. I don't know. Do you, Megan?
I'm sorry,
She
How
has
to flag with snowflakes?
She's asking that maybe they would be under them.
Well, I could make one point on that. JCP&L weighed in on that, and JCP&L worked with Roseanne poll by poll to say where you can put them so that you don't have conflicts.
So you'll still have the snowflakes, but you'll also.
You could have both, but you would have to somehow
It depends on the
consider where you can put a bank.
So we're not losing snowflakes.
Oh, no.
Okay, just that's.
Not for that reason.
No.
Okay, the other thing, let's see here. Oh, I'm just wondering now, she's got, what they did, for safety, what projects did they do last year? It's, beautification and safety, did they do any projects, by any chance? No projects. Okay, so I didn't know of any, I just thought that's part of their tradition.
It is for your documents.
That's true. Good answer. Okay. And the other thing, I was just wondering, how many.
I'm sorry, and I don't want to be flippant about what she was saying, but just to let you know, we did meet with Hart, and we're going to have a fall program because there's been a lot of recent incidents. Well, it's probably not just recent, but I know recently there's been a lot of the paper about people getting hit crossing the street. And our goal was to have a project in conjunction with Hart, but they were the ones who tabled it. So there were things on the books to do, but because of the outside agency.
Who is Hart?
Who's Hart?
Yeah.
It's a federal organization. It's Hunterdon Area Regional Transportation.
What is it just postponed or is it canceled?
Correct.
Yes.
Well, it was for last year.
In the
It's
spring.
2015.
It'll resume in the spring.
Yeah.
We're going to do some studies of particular intersections to see what recommendations they might be able to make to improve pedestrian safety. The accidents, the chief of police reported to the council too. There were 5 incidents this year, which is up from, I think, 1, either none or 1 year before. 4 of the 5 are really pedestrian at fault. So it's not reckless driving. It's more pedestrian safety, and so there will be some work to address that.
We were supposed to do an awareness campaign this fall. They actually did it in Frenchtown, and Hart and the police decided to postpone it.
And the last thing, I was just wondering how many new businesses came in town last year? How many left?
We have that report, and the quarterly reports all have these numbers here.
They haven't been submitted.
If you're here, I can give it to you, yes.
I get them from the.
Or you can get them before that.
I'll call you. Thank you.
It's public record, council has it. You can get it from them as well.
Anyone else have a comment? Ron?
Okay, so it's a new year, right? Happy New Year, everybody. I just want to put out a personal challenge to each of you, okay, to be mindful of each other, say things that you'd like to have said about you that are hopefully positive and constructive, particularly when we're in the public eye, when we have, the media that can hear the negative things that will not help the future of Flemington. I like Susan's idea about a suggestion box for those who are intimidated, who don't want to tie their name to something that may be something that's fruitful for borough council as well as the bid. So again, if we could just stop the individual finger pointing and name using in the public, with negative criticisms. There's a time and a place for that, and it's not during these open sessions. If you have an idea that might be appropriate for a specific committee, then I challenge you to make it. If it's that important that you'd say it out publicly now, then you should make it important enough in your schedule that you'd hustle to that next meeting and be part of that planning process to give your suggestions and ideas to the appropriate people who can help champion. And with the intent in mind that you go in there openly, knowing that if there's 10 people on the committee, that if 7 out of 10 don't agree with your idea or suggestion, then you're okay with that. But at least you have an opportunity to express it. And so, again, negative criticisms, negative questions, about our own projects, about our own things that are going on, our own board, our own council, in the public, it's not the time to do that. It makes Flemington look bad. We're trying to attract people. We're trying to retain people. Retention's part of it. Okay, retention's part of it. If you don't feel that things are being addressed positively, why are you going to continue to do business here? You're going to look to go elsewhere because it's too negative. The environment's too negative. So let's work together to be a little more positive, and let's stop with the name calling, the finger pointing. I think that's extremely negative by council. I think it's extremely negative by our bid board as well. So if we could all just champion that as a personal challenge for 2016, I think it would be a great accomplishment. The other piece I wanted to speak to as far as Lee's, session that he had, with people not knowing what's going on. Okay, not knowing maybe what the accomplishments are. I just personally and publicly suggested this on numerous occasions with the bid regarding accomplishments on the website. We've been operating it 4 years, and I mentioned this at our last council meeting. I don't care if they're singles with that accomplishment. I don't care if it's a double. We don't have the home run yet, but we're working on it. We're getting there. We can talk about those things that are in progress as far as the projects, but let's celebrate those base hits. We should have 30, 40 bullet points right now on that website that talks about what we have accomplished over the last 4 years. Okay, whether it be by council and or the private-public partnership of the council and the bid that are specifically out there for those who don't have time to attend the meeting, for those who don't have time who can go to that website and look at that as a resource and find out what's going on and how their dollars, how their assessment dollars are being utilized and being spent. So, I challenge the two groups to get together. Let's get this budget passed so that project that need to get moved on, and people can make their planning. Whether it be my car show that I'm looking to submit and schedule in a few weeks for the 2016 season. And although I do all the fundraising with my group and my committee, hats off to them, and I get lots of support from my fellow business owners here and appreciate that. I still need the rubber stamp of Borough Council, and I still need the rubber stamp of the bid. So let's get that budget hammered out. All right, so that's my 2 cents.
Ronnie, you have a lot to teach us, and we are listening. Just want you to know that. Thank you for caring.
It's teamwork.
Yes, Rich.
I agree with everything that's been said. I'd just like to suggest to not overlook the paper media. The social networking was all right, but there's a lot of people that are busy, investors that are interested in the town, and don't underestimate right now the void that we have, I believe, in the feature articles and newspaper articles that to support exactly what this.
Joey.
I just wanted to thank everybody in this board for giving me the privilege of serving in the past year. You all have something to add to this board, and I think you've done an exceptional job in that. I have to say that it's vibrant and you represent the real champions of this community that Roger Brooks talked about. Especially Susan, I know where we've had our disagreements, but you took on, in the beginning of July, something that you did not expect. Wasn't in your game plan for the year, wasn't in your review, you took it on and continued to be in charge of the committee, continued to run a business, and I kind of look at this as a family that sometimes has disagreements and comes together in the Flemington family. So I thank you for that. I also want to add 2 things that Lee said. When we planned that meeting on December 2nd, the rules that we established were in line with what Ron was talking about, is that you may vent about something
but we wanted to keep it positive. Give me your solution to the problem, not just describing the problem, which I think everyone did magnificently. And I was very proud to see that every member of council showed up there to listen, which I think was excellent. And I want to thank Robert for hiring Black Lab Studios to cut in the videotape, but I was actually going to put it on my laptop and then have it for everybody. But when I got there and saw Robert Heil there, I thought he was doing it gratis, and I knew that Robert engaged him. So if there's some way of either putting it out online or making it available in a DVD, I think that you really can learn a lot if you sit and watch this, because you can hear it unedited, raw, everyone talking, giving good ideas. I thought that would be a very good, it's about a 2-hour meeting or so. I think it would be a good idea to do that. So, and lastly, the river idea was to buy those large Christmas ornaments that was phenomenal. I would love to see more things like that. I think the money was very well worth it. If you've ever driven through Hamilton Township and you've seen the statues there that are reflective of the grounds for sculpture, they're like shot into the eye. You're driving down the road and all of a sudden you see this big sombrero out of nowhere there. You make left turn and you see a statue of a life-size statue of a man teaching his daughter how to ride a bicycle. And you just do a double take. Well, I would love to see around town next Christmas large ornaments all over the place. Maybe a large dreidel somewhere for Hanukkah, and a large those Christmas balls. Maybe we can engage an artist to create, the way you sometimes get ornaments that are made for your family, that are reflective. Maybe we can engage an artist even in a contest that would create Flemington ornaments the size of those Christmas balls, okay? And start doing this in July, start doing this in June, because it probably takes that long to actually make those. And you can imagine seeing those on Main Street, in the park, in front of people's businesses, 10, 12 of those all over the place, like a large soldier from the Nutcracker. I think those kind of things would just be draws for people to come into town. Between the Christmas lights, the contest, and 10, 12, 15 ornaments all over the place that would be super large. I'm telling you, get people driving into Flemington to see those all around town. Because I cannot tell you how many times I'm driving down Main Street and 3 or 4 cars in front of me, stopping, rubbernecking to look at the size of those things. And I was even making a joke, if somebody kind of woke up out of a stupid, oh my God, I shrunk, and looking at these things. So I thought of this idea, and I think that if the bid takes them on as a contest, I know that you can get businesses to sponsor that. And there are so many artists who would come and create that. So that's all.
Thank you, Joey.
Well,
I'll mention it to Kevin. Chris?
One quick thing on communication. Some months ago, I made a suggestion that on a regular basis, maybe weekly or bi-weekly, that the bid put a small separate ad in that says bid tidbits or bid bits, and it says something positive about the bid. Just a couple sentences, maybe it's a business card size, or double that, just enough in order, so not mixed in with other bid ad page, but something that says, oh, we applied for a grant, or we got a grant, or we did this, or we did that. Just something on a regular basis, kind of like the Rivershed signs, where we see something about the bid in a positive light that shows the bid is doing something. Because a lot of people out there say, what are they doing? And not too many public, residents come to these meetings, and people don't know. And I think that would help allay some of the negative feelings if we know some of the things, just bits and pieces, and they can always call, put the phone number in. Not everyone does websites. I've spoken about that many, many times. Right. It should be in everything. It's well as the other contact information. But just something positive, couple sentences is all. It's not a big thing we have to labor over as far as work time, but just something that happens that week or going to happen or just didn't happen, something on a rate, one topic at a time, and that might help communication and make you feel a little bit better about the bid because it's a problem.
Yes, yes, just one final point on what Lee Roth was saying about business owners and their feelings and things like that. I know we all go to ShopRite, many of us visit there. What we need is what I think the bid could use is an ambassador of goodwill. Someone like March, bring him into the flowers store. Find that one person or someone that isn't really political, it's not a Republican, Democratic. It's just about putting a human face to what we do to communicate and let that business owner, instead of going to the suggestion box, which personally it might be a good idea, but I don't think someone's going to go down. If I had something negative to say about it, I don't think I'm going to go down the middle and put it in the suggestion box, but let them speak to this intermediary, this ambassador goodwill, and let them provide a mechanism, a conduit between the business owner for positive and negative things to come back to you and speak to someone like Archie. You're not going to say too much negative to that guy. He's just going to give you a big hug. Okay, so maybe something to look at. I don't know.
Okay, no, I like that. You'd be perfect for that huge chain conference.
All right, I'll do it. Of course I would. That's the stuff I like.
You're such a people person.
I would do it.
Jerry.
There are two people in here that I would like to hear from, Gary Schott and Carl Acklemaker. I have a lot of respect for them and would like to hear their input. Now, let me say this. Come on, Gary.
One thing I hear from a lot of people in town, business owners and private citizens, is about the lack of communication on what the bid's doing. We should, without question, have a lot of information on the website, not just about accomplishments, but what's in the works. You should be able to go there. It should be very easy to find, right on the link right on the homepage. No reason not to have it. It's minimal cost to have information. So, I don't want to have to. When I was on the board, the first board a few years ago, people asked me, what's happening with this, what's happening with that? No, I really don't know because I'm not on the executive board. There's poor communication and
Well,
I can't tell you.
I have to say, if the board shrinks, there won't be an executive board, most likely.
Yeah, shouldn't be.
Yeah, so that layer will be out.
Yeah, but there should be no communication problem. Somebody should be able to speak directly to the website to see exactly what's going on in every project that has any kind of meaning at all.
Okay, thank you. Carl?
Okay, well, I'm glad to see everybody's here continuing in the normal course of business after reading all that the sky was falling and the bid office was closed and we're going to take our toys and go home. That's not productive at all. I want everybody to make sure they pay close attention to Lee when he stressed that business owners are not in a position to jeopardize their own welfare by making negative comments. I additionally want to caution the bid to not drink too deeply of Mr. Brooks' Kool-Aid on this concept of negativity. Just because someone has a different opinion doesn't mean that they're being negative and therefore dismissed out of hand. I mean, the way I hear this negativity being passed around town, and I'm not the only one, is akin to the rape victim being told she's just being negative. That's not what Mr. Brooks meant, although that may suit his purpose. But I'm encouraged to see the bid move forward. I'd like to see, as a businessman and a contributor to this, I would like to see some improvement, something being done. And like a number of people have said here tonight, we don't see anything being done. You know, I mean, music on Main Street and these other events may entertain the residents, but I don't see them doing much for businesses. And it's the business people that are putting up the money. But I wish you well going forward. Look forward to see what this reorganization is. Right now, I'm confused about whether we are writing bylaws to change the bid to Flemington Fresh, or whether, or exactly what's going on with a bylaw change, membership change. And additionally, I have been a big proponent of the bid staying in touch with their constituency. I pushed this a year ago and it didn't go anywhere, but you people need to know who it is you represent. And the fact that you don't have a good list leads me to suspect the results of any election that you do. Who gets a ballot? You people don't know. You didn't know last year. You need to know who you represent. You need to know who's going to vote for what. And you need to speak to those people. Instead of, you represent business people, and they have things to do from 9 to 5. Instead of sitting in an office waiting for them to come to you, you're the paid professionals, Megan, and your staff, and the big board members. The big board was designed so each of the board members would go back and speak to that area of the bid that they represent. But that's not been done. But the bid office, they're the paid professionals. You go out to those people that are busy making the money to support the bid. Beyond that, I got nothing to say.
Yes.
Susan, the consultant was hired by the council to look at bylaws. What is it they're going to look at? Also the board composition and construction and size, and how will the bid and the council interact with that group, the committee, and so who is on it?
Yeah, we talked about that. I think you stepped out.
I stepped out
momentarily. But yes, there will be an internal committee as well. But the consultants are going to have, a big part of that, making recommendations. And it's going to be presented next month.
Who's on the committee for the bid? Is that not
We're not quite sure yet.
Okay.
Robert's figuring that out. But he did say if you're interested in being a part of it, to let him know. And that's where it's at right now. It's just the early stages of this. But, I would like to address something you said, Carl, and that is that we do send out a very informative email blast periodically to all the businesses, and unfortunately, a lot of them don't read their emails. I'm not saying that's instead of going to visit, a one-on-one is always preferable, but we do send out fairly regular communications.
I understand. I receive those. My question is, do you send out 450 of them, or do you send out 250 of them?
We send over 3,000.
Well, I'm not interested in anybody that's fine, it's being sent to people.
Yep. They're going to
My concern is, in 2014, I was approached, and I'm not running up and down the street looking for this. I was stopped by maybe 6 businesses in town looking for ballots, and not been given ballots. Their names hadn't been put on the list. I asked for that list to be updated during 2015, and it didn't happen. I understand that at least Mr. Shore assured me that someone's now been hired to do that. But there are still businesses in town that you don't have on your list. And I know because my wife has. My wife has had a title office in town for 2 years. Okay, now, no big deal. Not that she doesn't know what's going on or isn't being
applied. To me, that's a big
but
deal.
She's not on your list.
Yeah, and that's a big deal to me. She needs to be on our list.
Too. And how many other people? And that's my point.
Okay, well, we've got to get a better list.
Susan, I have a suggestion for that. This was a suggestion that came up during the original planning and steering committee, is that you use and you go by probably the most accurate list is the fire marshal's list. Meaning that the fire marshal has to register each independent business most up-to-date list because he has to do it on an annual basis, and that's what we used to use 5 years ago and 4 years ago, and why it's not used now.
I suggested exactly that a year ago, too.
I've been suggesting that for 5 years.
I can say that over the last year and a half, our 500 a substantial effort to make sure he accounts for every business. So I think this will be quite accurate.
You know, Megan said she asked him for it, and he said he didn't have it in the spreadsheet or something.
He doesn't have the ability. He's doing the proprietary
He imports data. I know he can give it to you.
Yeah, you can export it.
I've asked him for it before.
He can either do that or print it out.
Consistent with that.
Yeah, or he can print it out for you. You have staff to put it in the database from. Okay, well, but he can get it for that.
Yeah, we need that. Yeah, Andy.
I would echo that. I think there were some challenges with your email list. I didn't get emails, and I think it's been rectified. I guess you got the wrong email. But nothing beats face to face. Really, I appreciate the emails when I get them, but nothing really, beats somebody coming face to face, getting some opinions from. It's just the written word is very different from a one-on-one communication, body language.
Right. But
You can't read into the word. It's like if somebody puts something out there on a page, we often attribute emotion or meaning where there is none. Where if you're sitting face to face talking,
Right. It's all about a relationship.
Yeah.
It's just with 450 businesses, it's hard, to get to each one.
Well, one thing that other things do is block ambassadors. So on each block, you'll have one person who's sort of like the ambassador for that. So, it could be, block on, one side of the street or the other side of the street. I'm not sure about that. But, so that way, okay, let's say Andy is going to be the ambassador for, there. And then, let's say Nikki Gill needs information or something she wants to fetch. She'll go across the street and, talk to him. So that sort of thing.
It's another great idea. Yes, Mike.
I'm a past CPA and have a lot of experience, and I would volunteer to work with you all to work on a process that can identify and prove integrity in how we identify the stakeholders in terms of businesses, in terms of property owners, and so forth, if I can give any assistance.
Sure. We have this computer system we're entering things into. Can you talk to Megan about that?
Yeah.
Joey.
One minor suggestion that I remember I told DJ Wright a couple of years back when I was doing some research on who votes, who doesn't vote, and so on. We have an election system in which we require people to register to vote. Not everybody votes. If you want to vote, you have to register. And if a business owner, and I'm not sure if this would increase or decrease participation, but if you require a business to register to vote every several years, then you really can't complain about anything if you didn't register to vote. Now, I don't know if that fits into the system or not. I know that that's something that I found that a bid in California did. And again, this has to do with New Jersey law. I guess I would imagine you pass it by your bid attorney if requiring people to register to vote is not a bad thing. But if someone is paying $300, $400, $500, $600, $700, $1,000 a year into the bid, and you require them to register to vote, you could be as sure as anything that they're going to vote come time to vote for the bid board.
So to answer your question, we do have that. We created a separate website system that is geared specifically for the property owners.
Right.
And we are in the process and have been for the past 3 months giving their email addresses, sending them out the invitation to register their business. Actually, we've done it several times through emails, through our newsletter, to get them to go onto the site and register for their commercial properties, and they in turn register the businesses that are in their buildings. So that process is underway. We've been doing it for about 3 months now. And we do send the letters out to the property owners and letting them know that they need to register.
And let me agree with whoever said that the best thing is a face-to-face contact for that. If if you have to get volunteers.
And we've been doing that as well. So it's been a combination of collecting the emails, because we need the emails to send them an invite, but we have been talking to them one-on-one. And the second part to your comment, which is about the voting, is in order to vote, you have to be a registered property owner or business in order to do that.
Well, that I know. What I'm talking about is actually, I know that they have to be a business or a property owner to be eligible to vote. That I understand.
No, you have to be registered on the site.
You have to be registered on the site. Okay.
Because you will vote through that site, because it'll give you the credentials to do that. That was something that was a big project that we did this past year.
Better than mail. Yes. Yeah. Anything else? Bill, did you want to talk at all about?
No, I'm just excited to, I represent Flemington BID, the law, for anybody who doesn't know. We're excited to go forward and kind of be a representative for the millennial generation for, not me particularly, but the group that we have to do some big things in 2016. We obviously hope that our proposal that we want to include with the budget that gets voted on after the restructuring happens. We need that to operate. We don't have funds in reserve. So we need to get forward and work with that. So I challenge you guys to get together and get that happen. But any way that we can bring, maybe we can help with Joey's idea of a contest to do something for the Christmas season. We talked about having one of those ourselves for the Thanksgiving thing and we can get it off the ground. But maybe we can be the judge people or the groundwork to get that kind of thing going. Those are types of things that we can do to help the business community of Flemington. So we look to help, keep the energy and level of Flemington alive and well. So anything that you can do to help your business, please come to us. Maybe we can partner in some projects. So we have to get through the next couple months without very much.
And we will get through this. And what you're doing is such a big part of what Roger said we need to focus on. So you're going to be hearing from us.
Good.
About being part of this branding.
Well, we're excited about it.
Did you get any reason?
Yeah. It was called, I tried to trim it and then it was a mistake.
That happened at Bob's head.
And that was just happened for years. Yeah. But it was substantial. I worked hard.
Anyone else? Okay.
I want to suggest that our next board meeting be at 8 o'clock.
8 p.m.
So that 8 at night, so that the people who've been complaining that they can't be here at 4 o'clock unless 7:30 is a better time, but it gives the restaurant people maybe a chance to be open and get here. It gives the businesses a chance, and it sounds like you're going to have some interesting presentation at the next meeting from the consultants and others. And one of the things that I will mention didn't is two of the people who talked to me complained that the meeting that we had, or the gathering at 90 Main, shouldn't have been at 4 o'clock because they couldn't leave their businesses to be there. And they would like to have been there if they could. I think in both of the cases they could have been there, but let's eliminate the excuse and let's at the next meeting pick 7:30 or 8, either one would work, and get that word out to everybody on your
I did one at 6 o'clock, and I have
Well,
one
we
people here
didn't have the word out for the one at 6 o'clock. If we decide now, and we push the word out, and I don't know what the best time is.
What
Whether
about
it's
6 o'clock?
6:37, 7:30, 8. But if it was 8 to 10,
6:30? 5:30. Because it's
that is some people's dinner hours. But
right. I mean, it's
5:30, then we really can't go over a certain amount of time. Talk to.
Well, let's pick a time, but maybe 6:30 is reasonable.
Okay, I'm up for that. So that this will be for the February.
Well, you need to make it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, well, I can certainly.
And I would get out an email blast right away that says our next meeting will be,
Okay.
we will have this
I'm getting that
presentation
word out.
as part of it.
You need to do your calendar request for your meeting, so they know maybe the first Wednesday at 6:30 here at the courthouse.
Okay, are we permanently changing everyone to 6:30?
We don't know who's gonna be doing what, but for at least the
Yeah.
next meeting is still this group.
So why don't we just say for now, the next meeting is
The
at
next
6:30?
meeting will be at 6:30.
Okay?
Here.
Here. Because this is the only place in town with a room. Okay.
And, oh, and Jerry's treating everybody to dinner at the Surgeonsville Inn.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
That got Carl's attention immediately.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, yes, Carl. Carl came.
I know who that.
Give me some context about how to set it. Give me the context.
Look at what you've done.
Yeah, we just need the